And that is my walk-in music. I kind of like that flowy state. All right, that was so kind. Thank you, Tammy. I'm really touched by that. And Holly, thanks for inviting me, and Caitlin, thanks for helping me kind of get here. So I'm going to invite you all to drop in a little bit. Okay, so there's a lot of noise in every one of our heads. It is the nature of the world we live in. You have chosen to be here, which means you've chosen to not go to a lot of other things. I want you to honor your choice. And for the next 30, 45 minutes, because I'm not the only part of the show here, to really rock it and let it wash over you, whatever is experienced, either from me to you or from each other at the table. But dropping in is really important. And it is very hard for people to drop in these days, to be fully in their body and to really experience whatever it is they've chosen to participate in. Because we have monkey minds, and they're flitting around, and I'm just encouraging you to support the choice you made to be here. Experience it fully so you can share that with those at your table and those you go back to. So that's a Wendy thing. I have 30 minutes, and I need to be mindful of that time. We all have stories about our lives, and I'm going to have a personal beginning, and then I'm going to take that personal beginning and apply it to what some would call as a career. I'm not sure I always looked at it that way. I thought of it as important, meaningful work that I would traverse through in my life, but I want to go through that, and then I'm going to end. So there's a personal piece, a professional piece, and I'm going to end on 5 touchstones that I think have given me the strength, the confidence, the humility to make a difference wherever I am, in whatever I was doing at the time. So that's how you can kind of listen and learn best you can and apply it to you. So first of all, I am in red. I'm paying to the Louisville folks here, University of Louisville. Yay! I started my week with Neely, and because I travel a lot even now, even without being a full-time operating executive, I try to pick my color themes, like so I can get my shoes and all my stuff organized. That's just easier, black, blue, or red. And so I decided to go red this week. So every day I've been in some kind of red outfit. So I'm feeling very red and the power of red. But the truth is, I am a woman from the Deep South. I know I'm referred to as a Silicon Valley executive. And I guess that is true. It is a true statement. But if you really knew me, as Tammy and Tanya and Rebecca and Amanda and others, Lisa know me, I am from Mississippi. And there's no state deeper in the South than that one, right? So let's just put that out there. Now, what does that mean, really? What it means is I was raised to be graceful and generous by 2 grandmothers that were very different, but just absolutely amazing humans and women. And I was also raised by a very young mother, 17, who practiced in a very different way her life. She was a Buddhist in Mississippi. That's very hard to be. And my friends used to think she was a witch because she would never dress up and go to the PTA because she thought that was silly. She wanted to meditate under a tree. So I share this so you can get a sense of me, right? I'm not your normal chick. But here's the thing, and then I'll go to my professional life. For sure, I was the leader of my family. I was raised to lead them. My mom was not the natural leader. She was special and still is to this day, and what she taught me was beyond belief, but I had to get everything organized all the time. I had to figure out how the clothes were going to get washed, how everyone was going to get to school, because she would be like, well, we're not sure. What are you not sure about? You have kids. We have to eat, take showers, get dressed, and not look like bums as we go to school. Because my dad was always traveling, because that's what he did. He was a sales guy who traveled. So I learned early to be responsible. No one told me that. It's in me. I'm responsible. I got to be in charge. And sometimes that's not awesome, but I am that way. I always was independent. And you know, your strength over time will become your weakness. Trust me. So my independence has not always played well personally. But professionally, it was always good, but I always wanted to be independent. I didn't want to ask people for permission. I didn't want to ask them for help. I wanted to do it myself. Does that sound familiar? Not always awesome, right? And I always was a quick study, always. That doesn't mean I had high capacity. I think over the years I've developed my capacity, but I was a quick study. I had to be agile, new word. Not a word I used in Mississippi in 1954 or 55 or 56 or whatever. But those are the things. And I developed range, right? I could be all dressed up in my fancy clothes, or I could be in my jeans. And wherever I was, I was. Very important. I knew how to drop in. I learned that from my mother. So how does that young woman, the oldest, no surprise, how does she apply that core stuff about her core DNA to her professional life? And by the way, in Mississippi, for sure, I was going to go to university, but really my aspiration was to be a doctor's wife. No, I'm just saying it. And by the way, I did marry at 19 the first time, and he was in medical school. Now that didn't work out, and there's a sad story around that. We did not get a divorce. He actually died in a tragic car accident. But the point is, you're kind of raised and you're born and you're formed, and then you bushwhack through. So let's now go through the professional. And I'm going to talk about the professional part, messages in each stage. I'm going to go through 3. There are really 4, but I think in the spirit of 30 minutes, if I think I condense it into 3, we'll be fine. So the first phase, after a very tragic situation with my high school sweetheart, I'm like, dearie, no one told me this could happen, right? And lots of debt on school loans, more debt piling up because of his professional decision to be a doctor, which I was fine with, right? So I thought, okay, I need to get polished up. I feel a little not clear right now. I need to get polished up. And because it looks like I'm not going to be the wife of a doctor or a mom of 4 kids involved in the Urban League or the Junior League or whatever I was going to do in Jackson, Mississippi. Didn't work out that way. I wanted to get polished up. And that's where I made a very definitive decision to go grow, develop personally and professionally with large companies. And I worked for 2 very different industries. And it was a remarkable experience and a revealing one as well. So those of you that are in large companies, Chase, all these large companies, raise your hand, right? Okay, so this is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that path, except in my case, I just did not fit in. Remember my independent spirit? Remember my sense of urgency? I don't suffer fools. I don't want to have the same meeting over and over and over. It's just not awesome. I don't want things to be over-engineered, like just because he said so or she said so. And so I challenged authority a lot. Well, that wasn't good in those years, right? I mean, you were supposed to be respectful and put your suit on. Remember at the time you had a little tie because you wanted to look like a man. No! Remember those stupid suits that were so awful? And they were those shoulders and you just, and it was just terrible. But I wanted to fit in, but I did not fit in. That's the truth. So, but how important was that? It was everything. It was everything for me because I developed an operating system. Yes, I'm a technology person, so I would say that. I developed an operating system. I kind of figured out my North Star. I developed my sense of judgment. And I became quite resilient because lots of not great things happened. Now, forget the death of a husband. Many other not great things happened along the way, not just that. But I developed resilience. Now, maybe I was born with it, but you only test it. You test yourself when you're in those situations. And I faced many. And no, I didn't always report them. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But it was not a great time to be a woman in business. Yet, it was a great time to be a woman in business because those experiences made me strong. And then at 29 years old, I'm going to my second chapter, I said, you know what? I don't think I want to be the CEO of Allstate Insurance Company or the CEO of General Foods. I don't even want to be the general manager of this place. It's just not my thing. And I will not go through life feeling like I have to behave for someone that's not behaving. Saying. And so I remember my mother, and I had a company car and all these benefits, and I remember my mother, but what will you do? You won't have any insurance. Like, I don't care. I would rather not have insurance or a company car. I'd rather find my way because I have an operating system now. I have good judgment. I have some experience, and I'm going to choose my own path. So then I left those large organizations that I have deep respect for, and I went on my way. I moved to Dallas. I'd never lived there in my life, didn't know a soul there, found a job there through the newspaper, those are the days when you did. And I worked for a very small operator that had a very global footprint. It was his family business. So I became a bootstrapped entrepreneur. And no, I did not study entrepreneurship at Ole Miss, which is where I went to college. No, I didn't study that. I mean, I just went there to graduate so I could get married. So I became an entrepreneur in 1984, working for a small business that had a global footprint. It was the first time I even had a passport. I traveled the world marketing and selling a capability to the largest tech companies in the world. Large ones, not startups, right? That was significant for me. What did I learn there? Traveling the world. I learned a lot. First of all, I had to learn to watch how I articulated things, right? I was from the South, so I had a few blunders in New York City and in Sao Paulo and in London. They would look at me like, what did you just say? So I felt insecure about some of my southernness, so I had to work on that. But being an entrepreneur, first with a small business and then on my own in the UK, was phenomenal. And so much so that I did get a chance to have a big exit as a bootstrap, not a venture-backed entrepreneur. We built a $50 million business. We sold it for $279 million. That's a big number. We owned it 100%. We didn't build a business to sell it. We built it because we loved it. And But that opportunity, even though I was never money motivated, not one time, that opportunity gave me a different view of the world. Because financial independence does matter. Because it gives you more options. And in my case, I didn't want a car. I didn't want another house. I had a house. You don't need two in my world, right? I didn't want to go on a holiday. I've never been that kind of person. I'll take some time off, but I don't think of that. I don't remember. I'm independent. I don't have kids. Been married a bunch of times. So that's good, right? I have range. But the point is, as an entrepreneur, a venture, then a bootstrapped entrepreneur, then I move into this other world, I needed to keep learning. All I wanted to do is keep learning. I am addicted to the potential of businesses, of people, and who knew communities too. So when you're addicted to upside, you have to learn a lot to feed that addiction. You have to learn a lot. And so if you're not a good learner, it's not going to be easy for you. If you're not a quick study, it's not going to be easy for you because there's so much going on. So my role as an entrepreneur was crazy making fun and scary every day, right? And it was my own money. I took big risks to do it. And by the way, by then, who was my partner but my husband? So there was something about that I had to keep working it out. So with financial security, I decided to go back to begin again and learn in Silicon Valley. I became an angel investor. I had never done that before. I started being on boards. I'd never done that before, venture-backed boards. I wanted to be a CEO of a startup. I'd never done that before because my husband was the CEO of our company, of course. And so I had a lot of things I needed to figure out. That was a magnificent chapter. Magnificent, for more than just having some money. It was like nothing else I could describe, but I knew there was something else. So at 60, living in San Francisco in Pacific Heights, if you've ever been there, it is like no other place in the world. 2 bridges in Alcatraz, I get a call to come to Cincinnati. This is my 3rd chapter, and I'm going to end here. And in that chapter, I will tell you, it was the best of all. I took a risk. I left my girlfriends on the West Coast. I'd only been there a decade. I had some successes and some failures out there, but when you have money, you can have failures, right? Well, you can have them anyway, but it's nice to have some money when you screw it up. You can work for free. But I will say, when I got the call from the CEO of Procter & Gamble and from the governor of Ohio, I was like, I don't know anybody in the Midwest. And I'm not even sure where Cincinnati is. It sounds like an interesting opportunity, though. I'm a risk taker. I'm independent. I'm Curious George. I've already lived by then in 33 homes in 5 countries, so what's another one? I'm a gypsy, my mother's daughter, not my dad's daughter, because he would have never moved, right, and didn't. So I'll end on, now I am a public servant. So I polished myself off first with large companies, because I needed that. I was rough around the edges. I still am some days. Then I had this fantastic entrepreneurial journey that took me around the world and gave me a chance to work with the best and brightest, as I do here in Louisville. I'm very grateful for that. And now I'm a public servant. I was a community leader in Cincinnati. I knew nothing about the chamber, never even heard of a chamber. I knew nothing about, because you don't hear about chambers on the coast. There is no chamber. No, there's no reason for that. We don't know what the chamber does in San Francisco. You work for a venture capitalist. You do that work, right? It's different. Now I know so much more. Having left that world, I would have never known it. about community, about the symphony, about the chamber, about universities. So becoming a community leader and a public servant was the most extraordinary part of my life. And I say that to you not to sound cool or sweet or whatever. I say it to you because you must take these calls. You must embrace risk. You must. Because I could have easily said no and stayed in my little bubble called San Francisco, not experience a swing state, not get to work with John Kasich, not get to build out, apply my experience to Cincinnati. You must embrace risk. It's very, very important. So now here, thanks to Tammy, thanks to the community, you guys have really rolled out the red carpet for me, and I mean that. But the opportunity to apply my learning again here has been, it's been amazing. And I am addicted to your potential, and I think you have just gotten started as an entrepreneurial ecosystem, right? And there are a lot of people in the room, Lisa, Amanda, Rebecca, there are lots of people in the room, Bailey, Jessica, lots of people who are working on the rise up of this region to be led by innovation and innovators. And we have to attract them and we have to retain them. And that's a big responsibility. That's not one person's job. That is not just Patrick Henshaw's job, or Amanda's job, or Tammy's job, or Rebecca's job. You, every one of you, in large companies, in nonprofits, in startups, you have to have some interdependence around a vision that will take this community to its next stage. Right now, I would say to you humbly, but clearly, you're behind. I'm just saying, compared to cities in your peer group. Forget San Francisco and New York City. I'm not comparing you to that or Chicago, but in your peer group, you are behind, and I think you can giddy up and speed up, but you're going to have to take some risks to do that. Okay, I'm going to end now because I have some touchstones I want to leave you with. First of all, you teach best what you most need to learn. As a mentor, as a coach, as a friend, you have to take time to observe, to give feedback, and to really teach others. By doing that, what you get reinforced, what you know. Last night, I was with Amanda and your Wild Accelerator team, and I was there for 90 minutes or 2 hours. I did 2 models that I learned when I was 28 years old. 2 different models. Models, meaning examples, and teaching. Well, I was learning as much as I was teaching because I was noticing their reaction. You teach best what you most need to learn. You need to really apply that a lot every day. Number 2, to thine own self be true. Your most valuable knowledge, and I said this last night, is self-awareness. But if you don't use it, you will lose it. So you can take all these tests to know about yourself. You can tell others, I know I'm not good at that. But you have to stay uber aware of your strengths and how those strengths are being applied, because your strengths can become your weaknesses if you aren't balanced and develop some range. And people tire of that. People will just shut down because your strengths can become your weakness. So what I say is, to your own self be true. So who am I now and who might I become? I am addicted to the potential of me. My only job is to develop my own potential and to help you develop your potential as a region, an entrepreneurial region. But do you get that? But you have to be true first to what you got, because you can't change it or move it or develop it. But just saying, well, I'm not good at that, well, then that's just lazy. Or I'm great at that, but I can't do anything else. I don't like that either. Like, have some range, but to yourself be true, and then you don't get mad at people. Thank you. I'm almost done. I've got 3 more. I'll be right on it. Okay, I want to say that there is a very subtle difference between good and great. I want to say that the gravitational pull for humans and professional performance is in the middle of the bell curve. That's the gravitational pull. Now, you can say you're great, but staying great is really hard. And you don't stay great because you don't know what good really looks like. We talked about this last night as well. So you need to define a few major skills and a few major pieces of knowledge and understand your natural attributes and get a few of your processes down. Define some standards for you and work on those, and then you'll get to great. But great is just not a push through because of one good talk or one good quarter, right? That's not, great is really hard to sustain because most people don't have the patience and discipline and focus to get grounded in good. To the degree you are good for a while, you can find greatness over time. I'm moving on because I don't have a lot of time. Collaboration is the ultimate business skill. It is not about an open workspace. It is not, that's just crap. Oh, we've got no cubes now, so we're going to collaborate. No, and collaboration is not Slack or Microsoft Team or whatever. No, collaboration is a skill that has to be well honed. To be a good collaborator, you have to understand that needs of those in your team have to be interdependent. Do you know how hard that is to develop a sense of interdependency around needs? That's really hard. It means you have to really listen. Shock horror. You have to really clarify and confirm. For needs to be interdependent, that's when you can truly collaborate. Mostly needs are perceived to be in conflict. That's why most people compete. Barely are they perceived to be aligned. That's when people cooperate. That's cheap beer or cheap bourbon, right? But so please understand that collaboration requires a lot of finesse. It requires a lot of inner understanding. It requires a lot of patience. And most people don't even care enough to collaborate. They don't. They don't. Because they don't really care about you. They care about them. And they're not going to listen to you. And they're not going to share anything with you because they don't want to share. And it's not because they're selfish. They're afraid. People don't share because they're afraid. They're afraid of what you might think of them, right? So collaboration is about the interdependency of needs. It is about sharing power and influence, right? It is about joint decision making, creative problem solving. Those aren't just fancy words. That really means something. You should work on your skill of collaboration. It is the most powerful skill of all, and I say most people are really barely C minuses. And mainly it's because they can't get out of their own head, right? Is that they can't be present. They can't drop in. They're always thinking and wondering and judging. This is how most people do it. And therefore, they can't have any clarity about a North Star because they're too busy judging. Even themselves. They're very hard on themselves as well as others. Okay, I'm on my last one. And I've already said this, so it'll be easy to end on. If there's anything I would leave with you, especially in your roles in your companies, your roles in the community, your roles in terms of being with other women, is that you really need to embrace risk. It's a privilege. I want to say this. It is a privilege to embrace risk. Why? That means you have a choice. You have a choice to stay or leave. You have a choice to learn and grow. You have a choice. Do not allow yourselves to play small and feel like you're boxed in. That's the opposite of embracing risk. the opposite. So for this opportunity, I'm extremely grateful. I thank you all that I've had a chance to work with and get to know. I'm involved in several different entities here in the region, so I will be coming back to visit. This is not my farewell song. I'll be coming back to visit and doing work, which I prefer. I'm a worker girl. And with that, thank you very much.